All right, today we're going to continue our series on OSHA's Focus 4. We talked about injuries that involve being caught in or on or between. Today we're going to talk about StruckBy hazards. According to Occupational Safety and Health, StruckBy hazards are defined as injuries that are produced by forcible contact or impact between the injured person and an object or a piece of equipment. Now, by identifying these hazards and understanding how they happen, we can take some steps to try to protect ourselves. So let's think about what are some of the type of struck-by situations that we perhaps encounter and what to be aware of. Let's talk about falling objects or flying objects. Flying object hazards include instances when a piece of material separates from a tool, machine, or other equipment. If you have a mushroomed bullpen head and you hit it and keep hitting it and those mushroom flakes get knocked off, then they can fly off, hit someone, bolts falling, things like that. They can all be representative of a flying or a falling object. Falling objects from an elevation to a lower level include instances where an injured person is hit, is perhaps even crushed or pinned or caught, but they're struck first. For example, spud wrenches falling, once again, bolts falling, pieces of angle, clip angles, things like that. Anything falling from height or being slung, chokers being slung across the job site in order to get them closer to the boneyard, things like that. Swinging objects as another one. When materials are mechanically lifted, they have the potential to swing or twist or turn. This has to do with us when we're doing crane work, for example. That movement can catch someone by surprise and they can be hit by the swinging load, especially on a windy day. This can very easily happen. Windy conditions are especially hazardous because the load is going to swing more. And in addition to swinging, loads can also slip from their rigging and strike workers, depending on how they're slung. So that enters into the whole discussion of how are we rigging loads before we send them up. Rolling objects, an object which is rolling, moving, or sliding in the same level where another person is walking, poses a greater risk, maybe walking, maybe standing. That includes being struck by a moving vehicle, or the arm or the boom of a forklift, anything like that where a person's being struck. That includes being struck or run over by a moving vehicle without being caught under it. Instances where a person is struck by a sliding object or equipment that's on the same level. All these things are real possibilities. How are we going to protect ourselves? Well, for one thing, you should be wearing the proper PPE. This is the reason why we insist on wearing the vests, the high visibility vests, ensuring that tools are in proper working order without having loose attachments, only using machinery that's properly guarded, making sure that powder actuated fastener tools have proper backing before you fire them, setting up barriers to deflect flying particles, not using compressed air to clean or blow debris. That is basically becoming a thing of the past entirely. Use tow boards to prevent items from dropping on workers below. Sometimes that's just a matter of setting something up, tacking something up so it will work that way. Those are some ways that you can do that. As employers, we try to assess hazards that are going to affect the safe operation of hoisting equipment. We look for power lines, ground firmness, levelness, make sure the crane's set up on firm and level ground, or that the pads are set up underneath it so that it's going to rest properly. Getting personnel out of the swing radius, this is why we have the CAZs. Erecting barriers to mark the danger zone of rotating equipment or in the swing radius. Make sure that the equipment's in safe operating condition, and then complying with the manufacturer's procedures regarding the use of the equipment and the attachments. Make sure that the loads are properly rigged by a qualified rigger. We're also going to try to ensure that All equipment with obstructed view does not operate in reverse gear unless it has a signal alarm, and we should also be having spotters for that. These are some things that we're doing, and we're going to continue to do these things to make sure to try to mitigate this whole idea or this whole issue of struck by hazards.